I'd like to welcome everyone to the Jazz Museum in Harlem offices. My name is Loren Schoenberg. I'm the executive director of the museum, and thank you so much for coming. As I look around the room, I see a very high percentage of faces that we know, and we hope that the rest of you that we're meeting for the first time will become regular members of what we're trying to do here. We've been in Harlem for the last 3 years, building support for and aiming towards the building of an actual museum. Because one of the first things you find when you travel the world playing or speak to the many tourists who come to the United States, no one can believe that there's not a jazz museum in New York, B, that there's not a jazz museum in Harlem, and C, that there's not anywhere in the United States what would fairly be called a large museum befitting what jazz represents. There's a wonderful place called the American Jazz Museum in Kansas City, which is a modest place and does a wonderful job on Kansas City jazz. And there have been a few other initiatives. I myself started out at a place called the New York Jazz Museum, 1972 to 1976 on West 55th Street. And I think it's quite a telling tale that no one remembers this place except 3 or 4 people. You mentioned, they look at you like, what? So that kind of tells the story of why there is such a need for a jazz museum. On behalf of it, we have a very small staff. The full-time staff is myself and Wilhelmina Grant, who's right here. So our board chairman is Leonard Garment, who unfortunately can't be with us tonight. He's coming home from the hospital and hopes to be able to be back at the meetings very soon. The co-producer of this series and one of our main consultants and aides who's done so much to make everything happen is Mr. Greg Thomas, the editor of Harlem World. And we've been doing this series now for several months. And all I can tell you is that there are certain events you do and certain things you do that feel right. And I can't think of any one of the series that we've done that feels any righter than the one we're doing this evening. Because what we're trying to do, and which we're going to make happen, is something that the woman next to me has been doing, and has been doing on her own, and has been absolutely emblematic and just doing it. I mean, I'm a musician, and I know that what it comes down to is people playing instruments and doing it. You can read about jazz, you can write about jazz, and you can listen to records, but there's nothing like listening to a live band play jazz. That's what it is, and everything else is just so much reflection of it. And all I can say is, as we forge ahead with the Jazz Museum in Harlem, I hope and I pray that our efforts can even in a small way replicate the soulfulness and the success of what our guest this evening has done on her own and continues to do, including this Sunday night when I hope you'll all be there, which is Marjorie Eliot, who we're so honored to have. I don't know where to start, Marjorie. So the place I'm going to start is just to find out about your life, because you are such a gracious host and so suffused with positivism and highlighting all the guests that come to your events all the time, that I've been curious about your background and about how all this happened and how it started. And so I would like to go back and ask you where you're born, how did music come into your life, and how did all this happen? How did it start? How's that for a question?
Well, Philadelphia. And I say that I was lucky enough to be raised by this incredible extended family. If you've gotten all of that from meeting me, but I was lucky, really lucky, and the music was there. No one pointed me to it. I just experienced it. And that was it, you know. But that wasn't really unique because all the kids, all of my friends, everybody had pianos.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was really serious about the piano in my house. And they were just trying to turn out a whole person. They saw the arts as part of being a whole person.
What part of Philadelphia were you raised in?
West Philadelphia.
For those of us that may not know Philadelphia, could just give a little bit of context for that. Where does it relate to the city and where?
Oh, well, when I was growing up, West Philadelphia is the place Black people moved to when they were leaving South Philadelphia. So there's West Philadelphia. North Philadelphia is where Bill Cosby grew up. North, Germantown is where Germans lived. I mean, it's a very divided city still. And West Philadelphia was pretty houses, and you're kind of, middle class is not something I like to use, but you had houses and yards. But Philadelphia, everybody had houses anyway, so, you know, you really, that was it. But maybe there was something unique about the way I was raised, because I knew my great-grandmother. She was a young great-grandmother. And as I've looked back, you know, she's really my role model. She was a very together lady, and I was a third generation.
What was her name?
Ollie Smith.
Did you live in the same house with her?
Oh, yeah.
Describe her for us.
110 pounds soaking wet. And she was a cook, and she took great pride in that. She worked for the railroad people, you know, very wealthy people. And I remember, they liked me a lot, but I remember that when I was 10 years old, 9 years old, something like that, she took me there. And it wasn't a big deal. She took me, she wanted me to see it because she said I was never going to have to do that. And I found out that she'd taken all of the, you know, my mother and that group and her own children. So the notion was that each generation does better. She was really very happy. And they taught me to love people. That's how it was.
Switch microphones with me, because mine is much too loud and yours is a little too soft. Just talk a little more into it.
Who else was in the immediate household where you were raised? It was your great-grandmother.
Aunts, uncles, my mother, father. Just, that's the way it was. You know, it's a house. And that wasn't unique, though.
No.
It wasn't unique. It's, well, you have all these people who love you, so that's wonderful.
Right.
And it's very nurturing, but it was just there. I didn't, you know, think about it.
So how was it that the piano itself, that actually a keyboard came into your life and that it actually became something that you were interested in? I mean, how did that happen? Was there a piano at home? Did someone play it?
We had two.
Okay.
I don't know where they got them, but everybody played, you know. My aunts were teachers, and they played for their students. They taught, you know, the second grade or whatever. And I started taking lessons when I was 5. You had to do that.
Right.
And I just accepted that. But I loved it. I really did. I really loved it.
What kind of music were you playing? What kind of music were you attracted to so early? What kind of music was popular at that time? What was happening?
I listened to everybody, including Andre Castellanos, you know, the orchestra, those records, those popular things.
Sure.
The music was just there. All of the great singers, Billie Holiday, everybody. It was just there. I don't know. That's what they were into.
Did you study music at school? Was school a part? Was music
Oh, yeah.
was music part of the curriculum?
Absolutely.
Or went to school? What school did you go to? And who were some of your friends? And were they all gathered around music? Or was music just something like for most kids, just one of many things at that point for you?
No, it wasn't just one of those things. I mean, I was in the band. I played clarinet in the band.
Oh.
And in the chorus and the drama club, all of those things. But with us, there was this focus on the arts, not exclusive of everything else, but this was something that you could do. And I didn't realize it then, but there's great psychology behind it, because You didn't need a lot of money to do it. Develop the talent in the kids. They find out that they can do this and they're going to be all right. So it was a focus of all of my friends. You know, music was at the center. I grew up walking around with albums with people who looked like me on those albums. And wow, that was great. You know, I thought, wow, it was great.
Who were some of the people who looked like you on those record albums?
Errol Garner, Oscar Peterson, Andy Kirk, who later lived in the building, Coleman Hawkins, everybody, Miles Davis, you name it. And Jimmy Heath's niece was in my class, that you knew about them. And you could always go to their house. So it was just there.
You mentioned the name of Jimmy Heath, and he's one of the main members of a very famous Philadelphia musical family, along with his brothers Tootie and
They could all
Percy.
play them. Even the people who did not come to New York, the nephews, all brilliant people. Yeah. And the invitation was always there.
There were other musical people from Philadelphia, some famous folks who came from there. Were they also role models for the young musicians coming up at that time? And
Willie Morgan used to run around giving out free tickets when he was going to be someplace. He would do that.
Lee
Morgan,
Morgan's
great trumpeter.
right.
Yeah. But also there was a great tradition in Philadelphia of the Monday matinee. And the kids who were really interested in music, they would let us in after the lights went down.
What is a Monday matinee? I don't know what that is.
The
Where?
showboats and peps, the clubs.
Uh-huh.
Philadelphia had these great Monday matinees.
Could you tell us about the clubs and describe them a little bit? Because not having been to them, there's something that I'm not aware of.
Well, there was South Philly had a lot of clubs. South Philadelphia, that's the main strip, and Peps and the Showboat. Billie Holiday always sang there, so it's really famous because that was her last gig in Philadelphia when she got arrested. But Herb Keller was a great guy.
Who's Herb Keller?
Herb Keller was a Jewish man who could not rent the space for this club, so he bought the building through a company that they couldn't identify that as a Jewish name. So he was really a very important person. He brought everybody there. Max, Horace Silver, everybody. And he supported Billie Holiday. I asked Mel Waldron about it a great deal, and he talked about Herb. He's a great man. Yeah.
What were some of the other clubs in Philly at that time? And what again, I'm just so curious because you're talking about a time and a place where I wasn't. And of course, we're recording these interviews all become part of our archives for the museum. And as we lead up to this incredible series that you've got going, that people will be interviewed about and want to talk about the great things you're doing, I'm curious about the early things that you experienced, that helped form you. And I'm wondering if you can take me and our audience and also the people who'll be looking at these archives from years to come into some of those clubs in Philly. What were they like? What did they look like? Who went there? Well, what was the vibration like? And how was it as a young person going into those places?
Fascinating. It drives me crazy to think about it. I heard John Coltrane play good bait in the Showboat. I'm telling you, incredible. And Paul, the maitre d' would let us in because we were so hungry, so serious. And when the lights would go down, we could go and sit there. And to get a chance to say hello to John Coltrane, and years later meet him in New York and say, you know what, I was blah, blah. And I was there, and I remembered what suit he had on. He had a brown suit. I remember all of that. And it's not unique though, but And I don't know why, but I had an early emotional tie to the music. If I was listening to it, I wasn't to be disturbed to do homework or anything like that because she's very involved, so you can't bother her now. And I was really there. I thought no one could resist this. I didn't think I would ever meet anybody who would not be able to listen to Charlie Parker. But as a little kid, I had and understood that I had this emotional tie to it. And it's the very essence of my life. It's included in everything. And I would go and stand outside places with my little friends before we were old enough to go in. Years later, when I met Errol Garner as an adult, I reminded him when he took me into Pep's bar because he was there and we were pressed against the window looking so desperate. And he came and said, "Little girl," and he took us in. So it's about how it makes me feel. And that's it, really.
I'm curious, like during your school years, were there any outstanding teachers and or role models that you encountered? And what school did you go to, and what was that was like? Was it a segregated school in Philly at that time? How was it arranged? Because you
I
talked.
grew up in a house with school teachers, everybody was teachers in my house. So school and church and community, all that stuff, all of that was integrated in. There were black teachers. My clarinet teacher was white. That was private study. So Philadelphia was segregated. I didn't use that word, we didn't use that word, but community schools, so there are more black children there than not. But white children who were there were there. So we were not bothered by that. We understood it, but that had to do with the segregation of the city. Black people lived in certain areas, Jewish people lived in certain areas, other ethnic groups lived in certain, it's very segmented still. So that's it. Yeah.
What schools did you go to? What junior high school? What high school? And you mentioned you're playing clarinet in the orchestra or in the band
Yeah.
and all that kind of
You
stuff.
know, well, you have the marching band and you have the concert band, and the Avery Institute was there at that time. It's not now. And the elementary school is there, that, and Overbrook High School. Nina Simone taught there. Her brother taught there. Yeah. And
I hate to ask the obvious question. Did you teach music or was she teaching something
she
else?
taught English literature, that's what she taught. But she was involved with the chorus, but we did not know, you know. She was working in little clubs and all that. We didn't know all of that. Yeah. And her brother taught there too. Yeah.
It's the 50s.
Yeah, her brother taught
50.
at he taught there, you know, like he left, I think 1970 or something, I'm not sure. But he's a brilliant musician, her brother.
What does he play?
Piano and he arranges, he scores movies and, yeah.
What high school did you go to? Is that the one you were just
Overbrook,
talking
yeah.
about? Oh, right,
Yeah,
okay.
that's in West Philadelphia.
Right.
And Wilt Chamberlain went there.
What was that?
Will
Wilt
Chamberlain.
Chamberlain went there. Wilt Chamberlain went there, yeah.
That's right.
But Lee Morgan and McCoy Tyner, and Bud Powell, before he quit school, went to that school. And, you know, but all of the schools had music. You know, the schools all had music. But families saw to it that their children got music lessons. I mean, that's a real serious focus. It was not just left to the schools. And visiting folks came, bands. And I reminded Percy that he'd come to the school. They would always come at your concerts. So you heard, you heard the music.
How did the piano come into your life, and how did you start playing jazz and piano jazz, and were you studying that at the same time that you're studying the clarinet? Or?
Well, you're just studying piano and reading music. I mean, I could not hang out with the boys, and I'm probably lucky that I did not hang out with them, because that was a rough scene, so. But we had certain things that we did in the band, little arrangements and so on. And there's a natural gravitation to it, and you're trying to get it together. But focus was on learning to read music, and that's what I was doing. And playing, the standards, the American songbook. Yeah.
Were there any other? When did it become clear to you that music was going to be something that you were thinking about doing for a livelihood? I mean, you said before that you were so serious about it that you weren't to be disturbed when you were listening to it. So your family clearly knew, and your friends knew that it was something that was very sacred and very precious to you. But when did
They were
that
not
translate?
planning a career. I mean, they probably thought I was going to teach, but there just wasn't a time when I wasn't interested in theater and music. So it's all one piece. It's not separate. So I was in all the plays and played the little recitals. Really what I do now, you do that once a month. My piano teacher had the recitals so your parents could see how well you were doing. And I always knew that I would be an actress and a musician. It was just simply that. There was no big announcement made about it. They encouraged me at home, and they would show me off. She's really so talented. And I started playing for the church when I was 12 years old. So, and I played the organ, so I learned how to do that. And that was really a very good, but my reading skills, and that's the reason I played for the church. So, but that still was not different from what lots of other little girls and boys did.
So how did the theater develop, and how did it come that you decided to be interested in that?
I never decided. It was always there, from a little kid.
Let me rephrase the question. How did it happen in reality then? That I mean, a lot of young girls and a lot of young women want to act and want to play the piano, but very few actually do it and actually wind up doing the things that you've done. And so what I'm curious about when I say you decided, not that you just woke up one morning and there was a sign there saying I've decided to do something, but how these things became reality, and that's what I'm driving at.
Good fortune, good luck. It's lucky. I was very serious about it. And I was always encouraged by teachers and family. And I was just going to do it. I don't have an unhealthy ambition about it. I had to do it for myself. I just had to do it. So I got really lucky with the mentors that I met. Really, really lucky. And as an actress, I met wonderful people. Ezra Lasley, I was a member of his company as a young person. He was here. A great uncle lived in the apartment I'm in now. So we could get to New York all the time because the theater is really here. But I did plays in Philadelphia. But Ezra Leslie, brilliant man. And I was in his company, and we did theater every weekend on Theater Row before it was developed in the way that it is now. We did theater. And I met Charles Gordon. Charles Gordon is the first black dramatist to win the Pulitzer Prize. And I was in no place to be somebody. And it was a moment where, wow, every night is workshop. And there's all this great stuff to learn because Chuck was a genius. And that was at the Public Theater. And there's Joe Papp, was a mentor. And that was a time when we all thought that the world was taking a good look at itself and this denying other people the right to do those things they wanted to do. But Joe really did that. Joe, you could go and you could get a job from Joe. I mean, James Earl Jones credits Joe with his career. So there we were in this great play, and that's really just good luck, and brilliant Chuck. And here we are, there, that happened, and it was real. It's just incredible writing. And so the people who give the jobs get to see you because it's a big hit. And I got lucky with that.
Two questions. For those of us that haven't seen the play or read it, could you give us a short synopsis of what the play is about?
No.
Okay. And B, could you tell us what role you played in it?
Oh, God.
What role you played?
Cora was the character's name. There were 7 white characters, 7 black characters. And no one had ever seen anything like that. And Joe Papp. Did you know Joe? Did you meet Joe?
No.
Just
know
a
of
great
him,
guy.
I never met him.
Great guy. Joe, Walter Jones, who was in the play, took the play to the Public Theater. We'd done it once at the Sheridan Square Theater. And Ed Albee produced that one performance. And so you never know what's going to happen. But anyway, we were hired to do the showcase, and we were going to make $108 for 9 shows. Great. And Joe really didn't know what to do with that material, and he invited all the critics quietly to see it, and they said, don't let it get away. And we were called at home to come take our pictures for the New York Times. We weren't excited, it was just so funny. I mean, you know, us taking our pictures for the New York Times. And we did it, and it was a brilliant, brilliant cast. So when you are lucky enough to work in that kind of piece, surrounded by people that talented, you learn a lot. So that was a defining moment. It was.
What was the play about, just in a general sense?
Took place in a bar, a jazz theme, because Chuck played with Larry Lucy. Chuck was a musician. In the 40s, he played with Larry Lucy. But it takes place in a bar. Oh, God. And it's a complicated piece about black and white relationships in the village, and how they feed off each other, how they support each other, and how some survive and some don't. That's the only thing I can say.
Okay. During this part of your career where you're in a play and the Pulitzer Prize and Joe Papp and all these people, and was the jazz element. Were you still were you with Al at that time? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
There's a juncture we haven't talked about yet, which is in between leaving Philadelphia as a talented young person, I guess, out of high school, and then winding up in this wonderful play as an actress at the Public Theater. What happened in those intervening years, and how did you?
You go to school, you play in these little clubs where they will hire you because you play and sing, so they only have to pay one person. And I worked at the Duplex, all of those places. I didn't go to the jam sessions or anything like that. Are you kidding? I went to listen, but I didn't dare go home and try to sit in anywhere. No. But you're in there. You're there. And meeting Al Triers, because you know him, I was fascinated that he knew everybody. And meeting these icons, meeting everybody, that's a heady thing. That's heady. And so I started studying with Mal Waldron. I studied with Richard Lyons too, and it's hard stuff when you listen to these great people play. And then they tell you, sit there, let me hear what you're doing. That is just impossible, and I wouldn't do it. I was scared. What are you going to do? And Max Roach says, okay, Marjorie, go ahead. Yeah, no way. Oh, God, no. But I stayed with it, of course, and I wanted to do it, so it just evolved to this. And the children. Having the children, and they all had to play piano. I brought them up the way I was brought up. Piano is there. Got to do it, but they're talented. Very talented. So, it's just, it's like with anyone else, you live your life. It's just that living a life married to a jazz musician, it's another way. It's a very complex thing. There's a lot of joy there. A lot of joy. Because when you're really into it and he's into it, there's a lot of joy. And gigs are hard to get. You know that. You know about that. But Al is very gifted. And that blew my mind, hearing it. Because I first heard him at the Jazz Gallery with Mal Waldron, Julian Newell, and Jackie McLean was the guest. And they were celebrating Billie Holiday, the Left Alone album that Al is on. And Mal and Billie Holiday wrote Left Alone. She died before she got a chance to record it. And God, it was so brilliant. And I met Max that night, and Jackie, guys, So it's just all of that.
Well, the Al we're talking about is the jazz drummer Al Dreers, who was married to. And Al, I guess there's no need for me to paraphrase what you just said because you just said it. A lot of interviewers do that. I think they repeat what the guest said 5 times. There's no need for me to do that because you just said it very clearly. So what I was curious about was this, you're just like, you like acting and you like the piano, and the next thing you know, Max Roach is asking you to play, or you're in a Pulitzer Prize winning play, or all these different things just kind of happen, and I do understand, and so I was curious, what happened to acting after being in that play?
Well, at that time, that was during the Black is Beautiful phase, know. And there was a lot of work. I did no place. I stayed 2 years, but it was still going on. But at that time, you could go to any theater and not see a black person, whether they belonged on the stage or not. They were there. And there was a lot of really brilliant stuff done, but it was because of the politics, all of that. None of that is separate from what was happening culturally. And there were some things that were real and there were some that not, because that's not happening now. Some very, very talented people who were going to do it anyway were doing it, and they're still doing it because you find a way to do what you have to do to express yourself creatively. So I was lucky enough, because of the way I was brought up, to really believe in myself. I think that's the greatest gift they gave me, that no one is better than you, but you are not better than anyone else. That's it. I don't ever remember them sitting down having the white-black talk with me, the race talk. No, no, no. They were busy trying to turn out a healthy human being, and that was it. That's it.
What happened to your acting career after being in that Pulitzer Prize-winning play? What play did you go to next? Did you segue at that point into playing piano more? I'm just trying to get a little bit of a narrative thread about the career and about what you were actually doing day by day and year by year.
You do the things you do, television and whatever comes down the pipe.
May I interrupt? What is some television?
Well-
What did you do?
Episodic stuff. I never had a series or anything like that, but you get called for a job and you do it.
What were the jobs that you were called for?
I don't know. I'm curious. That's why we're doing the interview.
It's not really the day to day. Okay, there was a soap that I used to go on ever so often because the casting director knew me. I did some work for Universal. I was in the law. That was a series with Judd Hirsch. And I was in Serpico. Things. And I did plays. I was on Broadway in The Member of the Wedding, the revival with the Phoenix Repertory Company. An old repertory company. I was in that. And I was still playing the little gigs. When you do 8 shows a week in the theater, you can't really go.
Right.
But Cliff Martinez, did you know him? Agent, used to get me work all the time. Al knew him when Al was in school, and he handled Gloria Lynn. So he was really just same office. I could call him at home. Oh, he would give me a gig, and like $50 a night, Friday, Saturday. I mean, no 6-day-a-week gig. I mean, not that. No, I didn't do that.
Did you ever get to see Ethel Waters in person? You mentioned Member of the Wedding. Of course, this was a revival, you said, and she was in the original, which was about 30 years earlier. I was curious as
I did not see her.
because
No.
there aren't that many figures besides yourself who straddle between people with a musical career and people with an acting career. There's very few, if not that many. And so I'm wondering.
She was a great lady.
Yeah.
I met Harold Clurman, who directed.
Oh,
Very well. Yeah.
tell us about that, please.
Oh, Harold?
Yeah, fascinating figure.
Yeah. He thought I was too young and too thin to do it. That's what he said. And-
Member of the Wedding.
Because he said that Ethel was there, and by the time she did it, she had arthritis. So she sat in the chair a lot, and he talked about it. this amazing woman. And he's a great man of the theater. And I went to some master classes of his. I met his wife and his children and grandchildren. Really great guy. And I wanted to know all about Ethel. And he told me a lot about her, the rehearsal process. And he said, the first day of rehearsal, she told him, look, Harold, haven't worked in a long time. Don't bother me. I'll do what I have to do, so leave me alone. And he left her alone. He said that he did not direct her. But I've heard some of those records of hers. Wow. But you can see the direct line, who came where, and the people that Ella and Sarah and Billy, these folks were listening to. Yeah.
I'm curious, trying to create a clear flow of the career and where it began and your interests, culminating in the reason that we're talking this evening, which is this series that you have that is a living, breathing thing. And again, for those of you who have not gone up to check out these Sunday afternoon, what word do you use? Is it a soiree? Is it a concert? Is it a happening? Is it
It's
a
a
jam
concert.
session? It's a concert. And it is a concert. And I have to say, just if I may, as a musician, I played there last week. I'm going to sit in again on Sunday if she'll have me. Which is that, well, that's nothing, but it means a lot to me. Which is that you organize it. And I cannot tell you what a joy that is. Because so many jazz things we go to as well. I'm preaching to the choir here because you don't do it. Which is, they don't plan it out, they don't talk it out, you just stand there, what do you want to play? I don't know, and the thing goes on for 4 hours. And then we wonder why the audience is bored, because we haven't spent 5 minutes planning it. And Ms. Eliot plans it out, and you're absolutely right, it's not a jam session, it is a concert, it's prepared, the tunes are gonna play, and they're not that long, it's wonderful, it's very well put together. What I'm trying to do now is to get from where we're leaving off with you're doing these plays and Harold Clurman and all these other things to where you are today, and how did all that happen? And
After I did Remember the Wedding, I wanted to write. It was difficult to do that, Remember the Wedding, because the Phoenix Theater was a white theater company, and I was the first black actress to perform with the Phoenix. And it was like, it must have been to integrate Little Rock or Dunbar High School or something. It was it cost me a great deal emotionally. I was there because of Harold Prince. Yeah, he's one of my mentors. And that's what I mean by being lucky. And so he said, okay, Marjorie, do it, because remember, you were getting unemployment, so go do it. There are not a lot of things. So he talked them into doing this. And it's a beautiful, beautiful play. It was hard. All of the emotions, and it was hard. And all around you got an inside view of what Broadway is really like. There were no black crew members, none. And it tried out at the Schubert Theater in Boston when all of the brouhaha was going on and the kids were stoned and all of the fighting. And some of the kids who were involved in the fighting, their parents, their fathers were working at the Schubert Theater. So there had to be these meetings, or you're going to be able to work with Marjorie. So I always thought that I could produce. I always wanted to. And I would do little things as a kid, but I always wanted to. But after I toured with Remember the Wedding at the Kennedy Center and other places, I knew that I needed to take time to write. And I did that. And I produced those things. not anywhere that you'd know about, but I did it. I produced them wherever I could. The library right on the corner from where I lived, I had great times there. But I thought that was a very important thing for me to do. And I did, because it was very clear that producers were not serious about integrating the theater. It was really very clear about that. After Joe Papp and Hal Prince, no, they were not serious about it. But that did not bother me, because I think it's absolutely critical that you do the things you have to do for yourself. So that did not bother me at all. And I took the time to write. And I worked at the American Place Theater when Hanman, a wonderful, wonderful man, who produced so many black writers. And I say black writers because if black writers are not produced, black stories don't get told, black actors don't work. And when, I don't know why he did that, but he did.
In your years, did you ever run up against August Wilson at that time?
I've never done an August Wilson play, no.
We're
He's rather new, really.
last 20 or 25 years.
No. Not the last 25 years. He's been writing a long time. Maybe that's 25 years. Ma Rainey, is Ma Rainey 25 years old?
It's 20 because I saw it in the 80s. I mean,
No, I never auditioned or anything. I mean, I really was interested in doing what I do. All during the 80s, I produced theater at the library and other places. And I taught in Newburgh. I was writer in residence there. And I got a chance to write a lot, and write fast. And I played music at the theater. And that's it.
All right. I have a question. Dana Joy is the chairman of the National Endowment for the Arts. And they put out a study recently in which they were talking about the declining rates of literacy in our culture and the fact that people don't read anymore and, the television, all this kind of stuff. And I'm wondering how you see what's happened in American popular culture in the last 20, 25, 30 years since you've been involved with all these great figures. And I have to say, knowing you for a short period of time, knowing about you for a long time, and having even read the press about you, I haven't seen that much written that documents all of these associations of yours. I think it's a story that must be told. And we should mention that CNN is here tonight because they're doing a feature on Marjorie, and it's about time that this story is told, because a lot of people, and I talked to a lot of people about you and read about you. I did not know that how Plains came about it and about all these other things. But my question is, as someone who's so clearly involved in the literary world, as a writer, and as a producer of fine art and of plays, how do you think about what's happening with popular culture and young people today? And you mentioned the stagehands, which still is a largely restricted group of people. If you work professionally in the theater, you look around, you don't see a great diversity among people who staff these places. You also don't see it in the audience. And it's not also only a story of economics, because there are people in all different areas now, of all different ethnicities and races, who do make money and can afford to buy a Broadway ticket and all that kind of stuff. But nonetheless, it's still a tremendously undiverse place, the theater. And I'm wondering, do you think that there's any hope for playwrights in the future? Why don't kids read? What happened to the kind of music that you love to play and the plays that you write? And Member of the Wedding, I think if you took 100 people under the age of 25 today and said, what was Member of the Wedding? Who was Up the Waters? Or even who's August Wilson? I don't think that they would know across the board. Okay, so let's pick it up. So as a playwright, as an actress, as a person of letters, so to speak, but you are. Like you need me to tell you that. But what I'm saying is, what do you make of what's happening in popular culture? And people who don't know who these people are don't seem to care. Why?
America is not interested in art. Broadway. First of all, it's too costly. Broadway, we now understand it's about getting the tourist trade. A serious writer, I don't care who it is, cannot get a play produced on Broadway because it costs too much. August Wilson, who's won 2 Pulitzer Prizes, his show is going up late because one of the producers pulled out, couldn't get $1 million. That's not a lot of money by their standards. So the new playwright, no matter how gifted, cannot hope to get produced. The public theater has changed. It's not Joe's vision. And Joe's thing, no names, just whoever you are. You could call him Joe and he'd give you a job. There are no places like that. And young people don't really have a place to develop their skills. Because to do this, you have to really do this. So that means you gotta do a lot of plays. To learn stagecraft. It's not in school. After school, how do you learn this? And the big thing now, get an audition for a television show, no matter how stupid it is, get that audition for the television show. And television has a lot to do with that too. Young writers, they're after you. You get produced, they will call you and promise you Hollywood. Woody King Jr., an extraordinary man, a dear friend of mine, and he's applauded all over, and he was just celebrated. But Woody has stayed the course. He's Black, producing Black works, and he has given so many people careers. He produced a play of mine in 1980, and he treats you, well, the way you treated me, the way Wilhelmina treated me, that's how Woody treats you. But he's one person, so he can't do everything himself. And I think children are not learning that this particular discipline is important to one's whole life, that the arts should be a part of everyday life. It should not be a big deal. And when you go to Broadway with ticket prices, come on, the producers had $4.50 top. Who can go see that? Who wants to go see that? And I think
I wanted to see it. I couldn't afford it.
well, you could, but I mean, with everything, there is no diversity of work on Broadway. So I think it's slid backwards. I mean, we're talking the 20s and 30s, the history of Broadway. There was something happening in all those theaters. So it's not that. Perhaps it never will be. I don't know.
How do we get to these wonderful Sunday night events that you do? Can you talk about the genesis of it and about how it's developed over the years and what your original thoughts about it were and how you feel about it now, this thing that you've created? This wonderful thing that you've created.
Okay. The Parra concerts, I mean, the notion of doing this there came about to celebrate my son, Philip, who passed away in 1992. And it was a Sunday. And on Sundays, I would spend it in a lot of trouble. Leading to the anniversary of his birthday, which is in July, and August, when he passed away, I called Morris Trammell Mansion next door to my house and said, I want to do a concert on the lawn. And they said, yeah. we have no money. I said, well, it's my party, I'll do the inviting. And I called John Denzel, and he loved the idea of celebrating Philip in that way. I knew John my whole life, and John baptized Philip, and he buried him. And he was there. So it was really wonderful that John was the first host of this celebration for Philip. I knew all the musicians. I called Richard Wyant and asked him to be musical director. And I called everybody, and I got the money to do it. And I took my piano out of my house, and called Carol Music to get a sound system. And everybody helped. Rachel Kent lives in my building, and she comes. You saw her Sunday. She always comes. And I said, Rach, should we do this? Yeah, let's do it. And she would run up and down the stairs, gathering people. I called Freddie Orange at hospital audiences, and I said, I want people who can't buy tickets. And he in turn had Antonio Rodriguez call me, who's the head of homeless services, and I said, I want them to love this music. And I got all of these veterans there who love the music. And I called a friend of mine who helps battered women, and they got dressed up and they came, and it was great. And I'll never forget that day. God, it was wonderful, really. And the following year, I started every Sunday, and it's still every Sunday. And I have all of these wonderful people. Cedric is sitting here. You played with Cedric on Sunday.
Could you identify some of your longtime friends and folks in the audience who people should know? I mean,
Here they are. Here they are. Marcia and Ray are sitting there. Here they are. Here they are. Bert is sitting there. Here they are. Virgie, here. Oh my God, Jesse. Here they are. No, why? Here they are. Here they are. Yeah. But they want this. Pat is there. Pat told me one Sunday, I said, oh, Pat, thanks. She said, well, it's ours, so they have, they're possessive about it and demanding, and you have to really play. You have to really, you were there, you played Sunday, but the audiences have been the biggest surprise because, gosh, I thought that my building in my neighborhood would overflow in there. And that's not the case at all. And people come from everywhere, not tourists, people who are really into the music. That blows my mind. And once they cross the threshold, we're family. And they come back, and I'm so blessed.
well, they're all blessed to have you because we were talking about it after the session on Sunday. We were talking about it Sunday after the session, and you were running around talking to everyone, and I was talking to someone saying, this is such a marvelous thing. Saying, well, what is it exactly? Well, there's some drinks, and there's a little bit of food, and there's a lovely ambiance, and there's a piano, and there's music, and then it came down to that there was one thing that made it what it was, and that's your spirit. And that actuates, hallelujah, that actuates everything. It does. It's the old thing, what you put out comes back many-fold. And at this point, what I'd like to do is, if there are folks, some of the regulars from Marjorie's sessions who'd like to say something or just add something or ask a question or make a comment, we'd like to pass the mic around. We can start right over here. Cedric?
Please stand up.
Well, so I play saxophone, and I've been playing there for 4 years, and I always say that's I play many gigs here in New York, but this is just the place where my musical life is rooted, and because at Marjorie's like just everything is right. It's not about ego. It's not about career. It's not about money. It's about being together and share that love of music. Marjorie is just I call her my jazz adopted mother. And I came here 4 years ago. I didn't know anybody, and then I went to that session, and she invited me to play. And then I was sure I wanted to live in New York. I was like, well, everything's going to be right because, there's always going to be Marjorie's session. And, even if it's going to be hard, but, I can always go there on Sunday. And I know I'll get, love and encouragement. And, so that's who Marjorie is to me.
You. Oh, would you like to say something? Pass the mic down. Thanks, Ed.
Michael and Rhonda, and we were fortunate enough to find out about Marjorie about 6 years ago, and we walked in almost by accident, and we haven't stopped coming. It's something you have to experience. I think all the people who are there, Marge, Cedric, Rudell, her son, are people who have to be there. It couldn't be any other way. And it's the closest I get to God in Marjorie Eliot's apartment.
We feel that it's the spiritual highlight of our week. It's a wonderful way to end one week and begin the next.
If there's anybody in the back want to chime in? You have to come up. Can you come up? Oh, she comes up in the jug of water. Okay. Right up.
Yes, to know Marge is to love her. I've been a student of hers for the last couple of years, and every time I go for a lesson or a voice coaching, I get love, 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 because that's what she's about. To know her is to love her continuously. She is the greatest. She's everything. She's all that there is. She's love, 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 and music too. And I am so blessed to have come across her path and to be in continuance of the love and the music and the growth. And I love you, Marge, and God bless you.
Amen.
I don't know why I feel like Phil Donahue here.
I started coming about 2 years ago, I guess. I just came because somebody at work told me about it, and I'd been putting it off, and then finally I came. And I think either the first or the second time after I'd been there, Marjorie said, well, do you sing? And I said, well, I'm kind of interested in that. And she was like, yeah, you sing, come on Saturday. She has a singer's workshop on Saturday. And basically it's just come and bring songs that you want. And she'll give you a forum and she'll encourage you. And I've been doing that for the past couple years, and I feel like I've developed more. I've just gained a lot of confidence, and I've had the privilege of playing with all the great, real professional, real people that Marjorie plays with, like Bob Cunningham and Cedric and her and Rudell and Al. And I just feel like, and also I'm an actress, and that's the main thing I do. And I write, and you know, it's like you hit all of those when you meet Marjorie, and she's like, you know, right, you know, she took me seriously as an artist, being young, and I feel like I could take art seriously, like besides how commercial it can be, especially when you're trying to like get work in New York, like um, everything that I do, you know, as far as is concerned, everything we do is significant, and it's great to have somebody telling me that, and that's just one of the things I've always appreciated. Like I want my little sister to meet her, and like, you know, go get under her tutelage, and I'm glad that, you know, that she's being archived, and I'm thinking now, like, you know, there should be books, there should be, you know, other stuff going on, because it's, you know, it's just like a lot of this stuff is stuff that I haven't had a chance to like sit down and ask her, like, where did you grow up, you know, like, so, yeah.
Right behind you, right behind you.
I'd like to also say, oh, my name's Peggy. I'd like to also say, just a lovely lady. I get to see her quite often down at St. Peter's for many of the memorials for the jazz musicians. And my friend Sonia was the one that brought me to one of the plays, and it wasn't quite set up yet, but I saw how you moved your couch and everything else and made the folding chairs, and it became a completely different space. And we also had little refreshments in the interlude, did a little playing. I've been to some of the jazz weekends that you've had at the mansion, and unfortunately sometimes the ones at Mount Morris Park happen at the same time. So I haven't been as lucky to get up there as much as I'd like to. But I always get lots of mailings with the beautiful handwriting. She takes the time to do all that. And recently I got a lovely card from her, always inspirational. And may you continue doing what you do for yourself. God bless you.
I'd like to add a few words also. My name is Gordon, and I bring people to Marjorie's because I found it to be my home in Harlem. I find a lot of homes in Harlem because I find it very welcoming. But Marjorie's, in particular, if you think about the timing and everything, you can just buzz 3F, go up 555 Edgecombe, and there's always a place for you. And you don't have to call in advance, you know what's going to happen. You can have a spur of the moment idea you want to fill your soul. They start off with a hymn and they continue with the most beautiful jazz that you're likely to hear. And the people that I bring, particularly the young people, are so blessed to meet Marjorie because she continues a relationship with them. Even if she just met them very briefly, I have people coming in from other states and she remembers their name. I brought them in. I never remembered their names. And she keeps in touch, and how she asks about my mother. She knows my family. She knows I have a dog, a new home, a wife. You know, we're having a baby. Marjorie keeps up with all this, and I'm sure she does that for everybody. And the first time I just called her on the phone, I got that.
Truth comes out.
I felt that it was the party was waiting for me to show up because she makes you feel so welcome that things can't get started until you get there. And I've never felt that wonderful. I've always considered her sort of a saint, and I know that's a high praise, but I can't think of anyone else who can be as consistent and as beautiful as her.
Back here, was there, I'm sorry, anything?
I'm sorry. I won't talk long about Marjorie. I mean, because we've said so much, and I don't want to be crying, so that's why I won't say too much. But she's wonderful. When I first met her, you know, similar to your story, you know, I didn't know her, and I think I called because I wanted to find some information, and I think we started talking for hours, like we were good friends, and she would say to me, I know you. And we would go on and I'd talk, and I come up, and I'm so proud. I'm so proud to know you and to be able to come into your home. I mean, and you have to get the vision of this. This is her home. Hey, Phyllis. This is actually her home. I mean, you sit in her kitchen, in the living room, in the hallway, and her doors are always open. I mean, you can come there, you know, any Sunday, and she's there. And sometimes I may not speak to her for a long time, and she'll call me and says, I need you to come on over. You haven't been here for a while. Or I'm doing something at the mansion. And, you know, I mean, and we've been knowing each other for years, and she always, as you said, asks about my family. She always asks about my daughter, and I've taken her up there, and I bring other people up there because I'm so proud. And you're doing a wonderful job, and I love you.
Margie is just a terrific person. I don't know if I know Marjorie as long as many of you in here, but I met Marjorie first at St. Peter's Church. I was down there with a group of musicians which were tolerating me and helping me get into this jazz thing with the harmonica. And I see Rudy Lawless back there, one of the people that helped me along, drummer. And I met Marjorie down there, and she said, "Oh, would you like to come up to this Parra Entertainment?" And I talked to another musician who was actually nerding me into this bass player who's passed on, Herman Wright. And he says, "All right, go up there. Yeah, go. You need this kind of thing. You need this exposure." And I was surprised that here's a lady that invites people to her apartment. Anybody. I mean, you know, sometimes many people are afraid to open the door to any stranger. And here's a lady just invites people in. She doesn't watch them and see if they walk away with a piano or something like that. Yeah, he's got that right. And I thought it was very wonderful. And there was something that I remembered a lot, and those of you who missed it, it's too bad, because it hasn't happened in quite a while.
I know, you're
She used to make a mean potato salad. Mean potato salad. I mean, I believe a lot of people came up there to eat that potato salad.
Since that was a soul food.
Right, and she would let you do your thing. You know, you could organize your own session up there. And I was able to play up there quite a few times. I haven't been up there in a while. As a matter of fact, I just went last Sunday just to stop in and say hello. And yes, and I thought that was terrific. I says, gosh, she's still, I didn't even know if she was still had this going on. But I ran into one lady, and I asked her, she said, oh yeah, I go often. And she was there this time. She doesn't miss a Sunday. I don't know her name. She told me so many times, but I forgot. But anyway, I would say this, that Marjorie should be noted not only in a studio jazz museum like this, but somewhere, I mean down in the history books, and definitely in Schoenberg, you know, definitely she should be there. And I think I'm blessed to have met her. And one day I'm going to come back and I'm going to try to get you, Rudy Lawless, that we're not too old to play. But I mean, I know I'm the old one, but you know. But everyone is, like Marjorie said, it's like a family there. And the people you meet, and the musicians, and I think musicians should come and you meet other musicians, and this way, you know, you can pass on and get to know, get gigs and so forth through that, by this exposure. And thanks to Marjorie. And then to get this big thing up there at the Jamal Mansion, I said, whoa, what next? Carnegie Hall. Thank you.
Right over here.
Sorry. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Number one, I'd like to thank Virgie for inviting me to this forum. I'm embarrassed to say that I've never really heard of you before, and I'm really ashamed of that. But since I've been here, I have I have learned so much about you, not only as an entertainer or a person in the arts, but just as a decent, spiritual human being. And that's very unusual for someone to remain in the arts as long as you have and remain and maintain that kind of balance. And I'm just so proud of you, and I'm very happy for you. And if you wouldn't mind having me, I used to sing many, many years ago, and I've been looking for the right person spiritually to help tune up my voice. So I would love to work with you in the future if you would like having me. And I do plan on coming to your forum on Sundays. I can't wait to come. Can't wait. Thank you.
I'm gonna, oh, sure, yes, of course.
Hi, my name is Romeo, and that's okay. It's just a pleasure to be here celebrating you, Marge, and your work. I had the pleasure of coming to the parlor for the first time with a good friend of mine, Charles Thomas, who performed there some 10 years back. And I was just blown away by the atmosphere, the warm feeling, the smile that you always gave. And the opportunity to go back to the parlor came when Lawrence Holt, the playwright, and myself, and David D. Wright were doing a piece about The Loneliest Monk and Bud Powell. So that's where the theater came. I said, why would you want us to come up here to do theater? But now I see the theater background. I learned about it later on anyway in writings, but the theater background is very important to you too. So we actually did a stage reading at your workshop of a piece about The Loneliest Monk and Bud Powell, and your son played the piano behind it, and it was a wonderful evening of sharing the music and theater, your two loves, in the same evening, and then to get the opportunity this summer for the first time to go to the mansion and celebrate your work as you did. And I had to be here because I'm into this monk character again, and it was the celebration of Thelonious Monk's work, and it was so rewarding to me. So it's you not only give us entertainment, but you educate us at the same time, and you give us a wonderful spirit. So we're very fortunate to have you in our lives, and I just like to give this to you. I worry about you. When you're gone, I get blue. So darling, take care. I worry about you. I worry about you. When you're gone, I get blue. So darling, take care. I worry about you. You matter to me so much, I don't know. My heart's in your hand, wherever you go, darling. So whatever you do, come back to Harlem when you're through. I knew from the start that I worry about you. God bless.
For our next to last statement, I'd like to go to my esteemed colleague and a gentleman who's been absolutely vital in the fruition of Harlem Speaks, and that is Greg Thomas. Greg?
Thank you, Loren. Wow, the last time we had a love fest like this here, it was Clarence Atkins, jazz journalist, and the memorial service was just this past Saturday, and Loren and I were there together. And as I left there and actually went home, and I'm not too far from you, I'm in Hamilton Heights on St. Nicholas on 153rd, I ran into a singer. I forget his name, the gentleman who came here the first couple of times.
Keith Dames.
Okay, and he was just leaving your workshop. So I wasn't surprised when he came in and you were focusing on Clarence Atkins, because there's a certain connection there, and the connection tonight is love. And when I first contacted you, when we were planning this series. And you played hard to get, but we got it. Why me? Why me? Well, this is why. Because of the effect that you've had on so many people's lives. And one thing I want to say that hasn't been said is that, and I haven't been there as much as I should, and I feel guilty about that, and I'm going to make up for that. And I'm going to be there more. I want to publicly say that. But the times I've been there, one of the things that I love about her is her passion for the music. I mean, you know, when you first get into the music and it's just all visceral and everything, she's still got that. I mean, she's walking around clapping her hands and moving and stuff. It's infectious. So I just want to say that, as you can see, we all love you. And thank you. And this is why this series is here, to give tribute and venerance to people like you who are alive, who are the pillars of jazz in this community, of culture in this community. Amen. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, may you say something?
Thanks, everyone. The reason I didn't want to do this is because I really don't, look on this card and it says impresario, and I said, wow, I am not that. You don't ever want to be false. I get more than I give. I always say that, and I do. You can't know how you've held me together. Cedric and I experienced something over the past 3 weeks that we just keep tagging things on, and we're holding each other's hand. He's holding my hand. So I think I could go to either of you and say, look, I have an emergency Sunday. Get there, open the door, greet the people, get things together. And they could do it and would do it. So it's very important that the ancestry of this be honored, that it continues. I say, I grew up hearing, this is Black people's gift to the world. And if that's true, that means it's all inclusive and it belongs to all of us. And I always say, the face of this it's all of us, because we're all God's children. So all of these things that have been said blow my mind. And I was teasing you about, look what you started. I am so appreciative, but I'm not that. I want to get it right. Loren is coming back. He's going to play on Sunday. I'm going to find out what he's going to play, and it's great because this man's background is such that when he said, I want to come hang out and play, I thought, good grief. Loren Schoenberg is coming here. And he hung with Cedric and Nabate, and it was great. And Brian Smith. And thank you so much. I still say what I said, but it wasn't that hard. And you were great. You were wonderful. Thank you.
Well, I'd like just to say a couple things in closing. One spontaneous, one I kind of knew I was going to say, and the other's kind of spontaneous. The one is that part of our mission in building a jazz museum in Harlem is to build the kind of structure that would have in it a Marjorie Eliot wing, that would have a place to celebrate for future times, a place where, people talk about the Cotton Club and they talk about all these wonderful things of the past, all of which are gone. And they're wonderful, and I'm a historian, I love the old stuff, and I would want to teach it and talk about it for the rest of my life. But I'd be an ostrich with my head in the sand if I didn't open up my eyes to what's happening every Sunday live now that can enrich our lives. And I would like to donate to you and to your series a baby grand piano. So that I want to hear this on a big piano. Now, having said that.
Get this together.
Well, I don't want to make it seem like I'm grandstanding, you know. Okay. I'll say it again now. To make a lot, if you want to know the story, I mean, this just came to me. This was not something that I thought of, but we have a piano. We have a piano. It was my great aunt's piano. It's been in the family for about 80 or 90 years. And there's no one. I looked for my cousins, my nephews, my nieces, my immediate family, and I said, you know, I want to do something with this piano so it's played. And unfortunately, there's nobody in my immediate family, my brothers or my first cousins, who can take it or want to do anything with it. And I will not stand for this wonderful piano that I learned to play on as a little kid not being played. And when I think of the joy, the honor that you would be doing me and my family, to think that this piano is going to be part of spreading joy and love, it's just, I would love to do that. And it's about you. It's not about me. It's about you. So let's not put it on me. It's you. It's you. Greg, come here.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And now we're going to present Marjorie with our plaque of recognition. And will you join me in giving what we think about Marjorie? Thank you all for coming. I'm not kidding. Thank you all for coming. Our next event, I hope you'll all take a card and come to our next one, and stick around. We can stay for a little while and talk and have another night. It's 4 p.m. Right? No, 4 to later. Everybody, please. 4 to 6:30, 555 Edgecombe Apartments 3F.
Correct.
And contact us or just contact her. It's on the corner of 160th. 160th and Edgecombe. It's that famous building, 555 Edgecombe. Thank you. I'm so
And look what else. Marjorie's name. Can't you see the rhythm out of yourself? She's on a piano. It's this spiritual, this